Hey, Mike, Raine back here with Canadian Musician right now. Lovely sunny day in downtown Toronto. And with me is one of the icons of my childhood and icon of probably every Canadian kid's childhood, Fred Penner. Fred, it's lovely to meet you. How you doing?
Likewise. Thank you very much, Mike. A pleasure to be here on this glorious day in downtown Toronto. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
And of course, the reason you've been doing the rounds, we were just talking, you've been doing a lot of running around the city today, and the reason being your 13th album called Hear the Music is now out, just released, I believe it's the 21st, so only a few days ago.
Officially last Friday, we did a CD launch at the Lula Lounge on Dundas. And things are starting to move with the amount of PR that I've been doing. I'm expecting 1 million sales by the end of the week. Ha, ha, ha.
I have to say, it seems like you've been more in the public eye recently than you have, I would say, at least for quite a few years now. It seems like you've, maybe it's because of the album, the nature of it, which we'll get into with all the well-known guest artists on it, but is that a concerted effort for you to kind of get out there more recently?
It is. Well, watching how things have evolved, certainly for me in the last number of years, the last 5+ anyway, is that generation who grew up with me, you, and your compatriots are seeming to figure that Fred still has a cool factor in your world. You know that it's not, and it's. I mean, what I hope is that it's not just a nostalgic trip, and that there is something. That he still has some relevance in this world. I mean, I believe that I do. I believe that hopefully the values and the ideas and the concepts and the support that I have for you, for all of you in your journey in life, I support you with what you're doing and hope that you are strong and happy and sensitive to the things around you. You know.
Absolutely. I'd say that relevance is timing-wise. This couldn't have come at a better time because. Just to get personal, my wife and I have a 4-month-old daughter at home, and we've been playing the new album and even have a couple of your old albums on vinyl, and we're passing it on to the next generation.
Congratulations. That's fabulous. Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing lots and lots of that over the time. Young people having families, and inevitably when you have a child, I'm a father of 4, and I remember, when a child is born, you sort of go back emotionally to another time of your life, and you want your kids to support the values that are inside of you, and often that connects with books or paintings or music, whatever.
Absolutely. And I guess before, not to bury the lead here, we'll first should explain I guess why the new album, other than the fact it's a new Fred Penner album, of course, but this one seems special in the sense that it really is a coming together almost to celebrate you of all the people that grew up with you. On this album, you have a number of guest artists. You have people who I would guess have been contemporaries of yours for a long time, such as Ron Sexsmith, but you also have people of my generation who I'm guessing as kids grew up with your music, such as Basia Bulat and Terra Lightfoot and Bahamas, and people I guess would have jumped at the opportunity to I guess meet up with, like I said, a childhood icon of yours. How did that start as far as bringing all these guest performers?
Well, that whole concept has been brewing for many years now. We started through the agency that I work with, my booking agency called Pacan Entertainment. They have a huge roster of people in their world, and the idea of doing a duets album, has been in the back of the mind for a while, and we started toying with that with Hawksley Workman a while back, and I did some recording in his studio out in Berks Falls, and then he got really busy, I got really busy, so that never sort of got to fruition. And then I've written so many more songs since that time that I wanted to bring forward. Then we started revisiting the concept through Linus Music, the label who is distributing Hear the Music. And we thought, well, who are we going to bring forward on this line? Who's our go-to list? And depending on many of the songs, it was okay. Well, this really has a Ron Sexsmith kind of feel to it. So see if Ron is available. And then of course the Spanish tune that I'd written a few years ago called La Vida. Well, let's bring someone who knows the Spanish world, and and Alex Cuba. And so it sort of evolved that way. Well, I only have 14 songs to play with. The list of potential performers to come on board is substantially more than that. So you have to sort of pick and choose and see who's available. And the people that I contacted were either available or they were had time and access to a studio. Like Basia was in Banff at the time, and so we sent her digital tracks. She took them into a studio, added her parts, sent them back. So you have that luxury of connecting with people who may not be physically, present for the music.
One of the things that struck me, has always been a characteristic of your music, but really struck me with this album especially is that, yes, it's a children's album. That's what you do, but there are songs that appeal to everybody. You could easily listen to this album and almost not even realize it's a children's album if you're just listening to the instrumentation and the melodies. And so for you, what's at the core of a good children's album that can appeal to everybody in that way?
Well, it sort of starts with not even calling it a children's album. I mean, it is directed at the child, at the parent, at the at the human. So it's a human album. I should redefine my title. I love having the opportunity of creating a song that touches on an element that everybody has a point of reference for. Something like, one of the lighter tunes on the album is called "Working Together," and Afi did that's where he did his beautiful work, Bahamas. Yes, Afi Dravanin, and that was a real delight hearing that happen. But then getting into more sensitive stuff like "Courage," and like "Humility," and like "Hold Your Head Up," which is sort of a reggae-ish tune, but it has a phrase like that, "Hold your head up." You can say that to anybody, and what does it mean? For a child, well, they'll start with that. Well, it means literally holding your head up. For an adult, it will be more mindful of who you are, be strong, be proud of who you are. That hold yourself, the deportment. So every song has that kind of element to it where it can be viewed on the most simplistic level, but it has that seed is there that can immediately grow into something bigger and stronger and deeper in perspective.
It always occurred to me, kind of what you're just saying kind of goes into this perfectly, but I also seen it with folks like Pete Seeger or even Jerry Garcia. Sure. And many people who aren't immediately associated with children's albums have made children's albums themselves, and it always struck me at the core of this timeless music that may be directed at kids is just folk music essentially at heart.
Yeah, the folk foundation is certainly where I come from. Being part of the '60s generation. I am a boomer, and our demographic that went through that challenging war, the Vietnam time, and the songs that were created then that were about shared experience, what we were feeling as a generation, looking at the insanity around us and creating music that we could bring forward, that was brought forward into the generation. So we would sing "Blowing in the Wind" and songs that had power to them like that. And the folk process is about participation, and 90% of my material has something that the audience can lyrically hook onto, musically hook onto, and so they become part of the process in a very real and organic way.
As far as the topic matter over time, you're talking about courage and hold your head up, and the new album has a lot of songs that are at heart about self-empowerment, confidence, being proud of yourself. Yeah. You've been doing this now since the 80s, from generation to generation. Over time, have you found that the topic matter that you go to or that strikes a chord or that you find important has stayed relatively consistent, or has it changed?
I am of the firm belief that does not change. That the elements of a human are based in basically the values of of civil rights, of human rights, for shelter, for food, for education, for health, that those are constant. And the elements within the person, like courage and truth and love and honesty and humility and respect, all of those never change. The only part that does change is the urban insanity, is the technology changes. So you have a little different vernacular coming into the system. You'll learn some new words, new phrases. But if you strip all that away and you're sitting across from a 5-year-old child, what do they want? Hi, you want a cookie? Great, I'll have a cookie. You want a sandwich? Great, you're done. How are you doing today? What's happening in your world? Oh, I just did this. I went and played that. You know, they're not talking about esoteric kinds of things. They're talking about what it is to be a human, to be a child, to be a being in this world, trying to deal with all of this stuff around them, learning, discovering. The fundamental parts of humanity is going down to basics, making yourself vulnerable so that you can take in the positive energy that's around you. And we tend to lose that along the way, and certainly as we get older as adults, walls come up. You know, you think you sort of know how to do that, and you try to protect yourself because there's dangers out there. So you build this mosaic of blocks, which are not helpful at all. You know, they're protective, and you have to be that. But you also, at the same time, I think everybody needs to know how to clear that away, how to sit in calm, how to open their spirit, their soul, their emotion, make themselves vulnerable so that they can continue to learn new stuff, change their attitudes, feelings, opinions. Let's grow together as a society, you know.
Have you found your ability to connect with children on that level has changed, not necessarily for the better, for the worse, anything like that, but as you've aged, have you noticed your own relationship with children, either directly or through music, alter and morph?
It's pretty consistent as well. I mean, I worked a lot with physically, mentally challenged kids, special needs back then, so understanding where you can go off the norm and how small comments can completely disrupt, you know, the spirit of a child. But what I love is the ability to speak to a child one-on-one, even in a setting of, you know, hundreds of people, but the concept of one-on-one and speaking in full sentences and asking questions, expecting answers, or there may be rhetorical questions in a large setting. But I've felt that my ability to do that has only gotten deeper. So I can be. We were just at a thing for today's parent yesterday. There was a little kid playing a little harmonica. Totally spontaneously, I pulled out my harmonica and we started jamming. You know, it was simple. He was on the other end of the room. I did a couple of toots. He did a couple of toots. We had an eye exchange, a connection, you know, and it was cool, man. Good job, you know. And it was that kind of feeling that we were peers at that moment, you know, that I was opening the door for him. He was allowing me in. And being able to do that is, for me, is a blessing that I am allowed to be in the presence of a child on that level, and that I've learned over my lifetime the ability to be aware of how far to go, not, you know, so that I don't freak the child out. If I do cross a line, then backing up and saying, sorry, are you okay? You know, so that we find a balance.
Moving to your older fans, you've talked, you know, not kids anymore, but people of my generation, as well as younger or older, they all still seem to feel a connection to you. I remember at the Juno Awards, whenever it was last in Hamilton, I think it was 2-3 years ago, you had won Best Children's Album for your last album. I remember being in the media room there, And
In that gauntlet?
yes, in the
Oh,
gauntlet.
okay, yeah.
And when they have all the tables there and they kind of bring people there as they come off stage. And, Geddy Lee from Rush was there. The Weeknd was there. Like, big-time stars.
was there.
Yeah, there you go. The big-time stars are coming through the room. And you know how the media is and those kinds of things. They kind of make a point of not acting too impressed by anybody. But when you came in the room, there was a noticeable kind of murmur and people perk up. Like, there was a reaction to you that I didn't see to any of like the global stars, and it struck me. I wonder, if you feel that often, and why do you think people still connect to you? Because there's lots of children's shows, lots of children's performers that people love as kids and don't care about once they're older. Know what I mean? Have you reflected on what it is about you that people still connect to?
Well, that's an interesting thing, because in many ways, the way that people relate to me is none of my business. Because I don't. If I was always trying to get that reaction from people, then it would be a very egotistical trip. It would be, well, look at me, don't you know who I am? Well, look what I've done. I've got records, the cat game. That would be going out of myself, trying to elicit response from somebody else, and then it's ego. And I pride myself. I mean, I do have an ego, certainly, but I pride myself at being as genuine a person as I possibly can, as honest and direct in communication as I possibly can. And I've done that through my concerts, through my television, through my recordings. I hope it's translated in there, so that when people listen to it, it's, oh, he's actually talking to me. He's saying something he's trying to elicit a response somehow. It's essentially me bringing forward something of value in my life that I feel is important. If I put it on the table and you say, yeah, I like that, great. If you say, no, not so much, cool, that's totally fine. I mean, I don't demand that you embrace everything I'm saying, but I do encourage you to be open to it and to hear the voice and to hear where that is coming from, and hopefully it connects somehow. And it seems, I mean, that's the thing now. It certainly has gone that depth, and people approach me now with great stories, with tears in their eyes, with a very strong love and emotional perspective.
There's you, when you think of, just got very loud here for all of a sudden, but there we go. TTC's gone. When I think back to when you came out with the Cats Come Back, and that era of my childhood, there's you, there was Raffi, there was Sharon, Lois, and Bram. Those are kind of the three icons of children's music of that era that people still remember and still feel that connection to. I'm wondering, as genial as the children's album or the children's music industry seems to be, was there even a friendly competition? But was there any sense of competition between yourself, Raffi, and then the three and Sharon, Lois, and Bram?
There may have been. I mean, we were all trying to grow. Certainly, the industry was embracing all of us, and we all were touring, our little faces off, coast to coast, the festivals. We didn't interact a whole lot because there's no point of having the same at festivals we did, and we certainly have huge respect for each other. We had, I think, slightly different approaches to things along the way, and it's never about comparative analysis on it. I have a little phrase that, nor compare yourself with others, lest you become vain or bitter. Because as soon as you get into comparison, then you're either better than or not as good as. So I try and keep that clear. I mean, there's things that others have done that I think, well, that's not what I would have done. I have I think a slightly different approach along the way, but in friendly rivalry. I mean, I think the industry likes to think that maybe there's something deeper that way. Are you and Raffi really friends? In the back room, yeah, you get into a little fisticuff or something. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
So before we wrap up here, with Hear the Music just recently out, what are your plans for the near future as far as touring and promotion? Are people going to be able to, young and old, be able to come out and see you?
Clearly, on fredpenner.com, there's my tour schedule. Over the summer, I'll be, well, from Ontario through every province to Vancouver. Children's festivals in Vancouver, Winnipeg, Saskatoon, many festivals across the country, and then coming into the fall, there'll be more touring happening. I mean, I'm touring. It's crazy. I'm touring more than I have for years, it seems. But we're hoping to build a really strong national tour, either in the fall or possibly in the spring of 2018. But I am accessible, and there's lots of things happening. So people just need to keep their ears to the ground and come and see me.
Thankfully for all of us, you're not slowing down. And I have to say, not only have we been playing your album a lot at home with our 4-month-old daughter, but my wife's an elementary school music teacher, so she's especially familiar with your work, and she was incredibly jealous when she found out I'd be coming to meet you today. But no, just thank you for everything you've done. I'm looking forward to passing on the music to the next generation.
Appreciate it, Michael. Thank you very much. Thank you.